Dive into the depths where sunlight never penetrates and uncover the ocean's darkest secrets. The deep sea, with its unexplored abyssal plains and enigmatic creatures, holds mysteries that defy belief. From bizarre life forms that thrive in extreme conditions to lost shipwrecks and ancient underwater cities. Prepare to be amazed as we delve into the most unbelievable deep-sea discoveries that reveal just how little we truly know about our planet's final frontier.
Imagine taking a journey to the deepest point on Earth. It would be exciting for sure, but undeniably terrifying at the same time. The Challenger Deep is the deepest known point of the seabed of Earth. This extreme abyss lies at the southern end of the Mariana Trench in the western Pacific Ocean. James Cameron didn't just stick to directing blockbusters. He's a deep sea enthusiast as well. In 2012, he climbed into a specially designed submersible called the Deep Sea Challenger and descended about 36,000 feet, reaching the Challenger Deep, which is deeper than Mount Everest is tall. There's a handful of others who've dared to explore this mysterious abyss. Victor Vescovo, a Texan adventurer and businessman, went deeper in 2019. His submersible, the Limiting Factor, touched the ocean floor at a whopping 36,070 feet, breaking records. So right, it's deep, but what's down there? All sorts of weird and wonderful creatures, and some of them have never been seen anywhere else on Earth. Deep sea divers have also discovered microorganisms that thrive in the extreme conditions of the deep where sunlight can't penetrate. They survive in total darkness and under intense pressure. Organisms like this are pretty cool to discover too, because it makes us really question what the true limits of life are and the potential for extraterrestrial life in the universe that may thrive in environments we've never thought living matter could. Number 9, humanoid creatures. So the year is 1982, and Russian military divers are conducting routine training exercises in the deep, dark waters of Lake Baikal, the world's deepest freshwater lake. These divers reported encountering something they couldn't wrap their heads around: humanoid creatures. Survivors stated the beings were about 9 feet tall, with humanoid features and silvery scales or suits covering their bodies. Some even say they had large, unblinking eyes that emitted an eerie glow. Now, the official stance is predictably hush hush. The Soviet government supposedly classified any information related to this incident, which of course just turned cryptid and UFO enthusiast cranks even more. What makes a possible extraterrestrial or mythical creature sighting more plausible than a government cover-up? And at number 8, we have a story posted to Reddit by user Digestives Rule. This was in response to a thread asking divers what the creepiest thing they'd experienced while diving was. Digestives Rule wrote, "I'm a commercial diver and was once on a job cleaning a portable water reservoir. I'd been in other reservoirs before, but this one was by far the biggest, at 40 by 80 meters. To get in, you had to open a hatch in the ground. The whole reservoir was underground, and climb down a ladder. The hatch was in a corner, so when you were in the far corner of the reservoir, it was completely pitch black, and you just had to hope your light didn't go out. I was about halfway through a 3-hour dive when the batteries in my torch started going flat. I watched the beam get narrower and dimmer until it cut out completely. It's not a huge problem if you lose light, as you can just follow your umbilical back to the hatch. Just as I started walking back, some obnoxiously loud banging started somewhere in the reservoir. I was the only diver in there, so it both confused and scared the out of me. Needless to say, I ran back to the hatch as fast as I could. I ended up getting my torch changed out and doing another hour in the water, but I didn't hear the noise again. I still have no idea what it was, but the combination of my torch going out and loud banging coming from somewhere gave me a hell of a fright. Now let us turn our attention to the elusive giant squid. So for the longest time, these colossal creatures were thought of in the same way the Loch Ness Monster is, simply rumored to exist, but rarely seen and often dismissed as seafaring folklore. The big breakthrough in the giant squid saga came in 2004, when researchers and a Japanese film crew managed to capture the first images of a living giant squid in its natural habitat. I cannot imagine the excitement. They basically stumbled on a real-life sea monster. The series of images were a game changer, proving that these creatures weren't just the stuff of sailors' tall tales. Then in 2012, another significant moment occurred when scientists managed to capture giant squid footage for the first time in its natural habitat. This time, submersibles were used to spot the creature. So what makes giant squids so fascinating, other than how elusive they are? Well, they're colossal. Some individuals can reach lengths of up to 43 feet with eyes the size of basketballs. Speaking of giant stuff, let's talk a bit about giant isopods. The giant isopod is a crustacean that inhabits the Mariana Trench and other deep sea environments. They kind of look like an oversized pill bug. These things can reach lengths of over 16 inches. Thank God these things were designated for deep sea environments. I've always thought potato bugs are actually kind of cute, but they would not be cute if they were 16 inches long. Don't have the time for that kind of thing scuttling around my apartment. Giant isopods are scavengers feeding on the remains of dead animals that sink to the trench floor. Their slow metabolism allows them to survive on limited food resources in the deep sea environment. Next up on the list, we have underwater pyramids in Cuba. There is a lot of controversy surrounding the so-called underwater pyramids off the coast of Cuba, discovered by oceanographer Pauline Zalitsky and her husband Paul Weinswig in 2000. These structures lie at a depth of around 2,000 feet. So when images of this underwater site were first released, people looked at them and were like, that looks like some kind of underwater pyramid or something. Are these structures that maybe are part of some ancient lost civilization? The mysterious alignment of the structures has also led some to propose extraterrestrial involvement. The idea that maybe these pyramids could be part of an ancient alien civilization's underwater base. Just like with many cases of this kind, some also claim that governments and mainstream archaeologists are suppressing information about the site to maintain the status quo. And on the other end of the spectrum, you have, of course, these skeptics. They basically just said these are natural formations, and what folks are seeing is just a case of pareidolia. While many remain skeptical about the existence of an advanced ancient civilization beneath the waves, looking at these images, you really can't deny how uncanny some of these formations look. And number 4, we have Bimini Road. Bimini Road, discovered off the coast of North Bimini Island in the Bahamas in 1968, has again a lot of controversy surrounding it. It consists of a series of rectangular limestone blocks arranged in a linear pattern, looking almost like a road. The discovery was first made by pilots flying over the area, and then underwater expeditions confirmed the existence of the submerged structure. Now, according to mainstream scientists, Bimini Road consists of beach rock, a result of sand and shell fragments cementing over time. So many of them believe it isn't man-made, but there are more interesting theories. Some propose an Atlantis connection, that maybe the structure is a remnant of the mythical lost city. There's just too many straight lines and right angles in the formation for it to be some natural occurrence. And there are theories not linked with Atlantis, the possibility of some other advanced prehistoric civilization predating the known cultures. And because the internet exists and there are people with all kinds of crazy ideas all over the globe, there are even more outlandish theories about this formation, some claiming technological anomalies associated with the stones, like unusual magnetic fields and unexplained energy readings. Alright, back to some mysterious creature stuff though, the yellow belly sea monster. On September 11th of 1876, Captain John K. Webster and James Anderson aboard the Nestor saw something they'd truly never forget. It was an unidentified sea creature while off the coast of Malaysia. They described the thing as about 60 to 100 feet in length. It looked a bit like a large tadpole with a flat necklace head. It didn't seem to have any fins or flippers either, and its yellow skin had a prominent black stripe running along its spine. About 9 years later, on October 4th of 1885, a similar creature was observed in South Africa. Witnesses reported a 90-foot creature with yellow skin, black stripes, but this creature had fins on either side. In 1965, Bernard Heuvelmans, a Belgian-French scientist, explorer, researcher, also often referred to as the father of cryptozoology, looked at these two sightings and then categorized the creature as the yellow belly. He believed it could be an unknown shark species or possibly an amphibian, creating a classification for tadpole-like sea monsters on a bigger scale. Of course, the most famous yellow belly sighting, though, occurred on December 12th of 1964 near Hook Island, Queensland. Robert Lasarick and his family, along with a friend, spotted an 80-foot creature in the shallow water. At first they thought it was dead because of a visible wound, but it opened its mouth and began swimming towards their boat. The creature had smooth, dark skin with brown stripes, no visible fins or teeth, and slit-shaped pupils. Then the family just got out of there. At number 2, we have the underwater Stonehenge. Off the shores of Lake Michigan lies an intriguing underwater discovery known as the underwater Stonehenge. Researchers came across the site while using sonar technology to explore the lake's floor. The underwater formation features a cluster of stones arranged in a circular or horseshoe-type pattern, looking a lot like the renowned Stonehenge in England. In terms of the mainstream scientific world, experts propose that the stones may be natural geological formations. That always seems to be their go-to. People will be like, ah, look at this, and then they're like, it's natural, it's natural. While others think that this site might hold evidence of an ancient civilization predating recorded history. The stones seem to be placed in this very precise alignment, and of course, Atlantis always comes into the conversation. Finally, though, we have another story posted to Reddit, this one by user Tamu. Actually, we have 2 short stories here. They go as follows. This isn't my story, but my dad's. So when he was in grad school, he did some field studies classes, some of which involved diving in Monterey Bay. One day he was diving, counting something off the Santa Cruz Pier, and he finds a shopping cart with bricks and cinder blocks and a chain attached to the handle. He naturally followed the chain and found a bare foot wrapped in the chain. He assumes something probably ate the rest of the body, and apparently his friends had seen similar things too. Also not mine, but my dad's friend. He says he was on a shelf counting mussels when he felt something tap his tank. He looked around, didn't see anything. He figured it was a seal, because they like to play. When he was nudged again, he saw it was a great white. He says he thought to himself, if it gets me, I can't outswim it. Now, I don't know if he was actually that chill. I sure wouldn't be, but that's how he tells it. So that second story really gets me. Like, the foot is super creepy, but turning around to see a great white right next to you, and you're in its habitat, and you just have that acceptance of like, there's nothing I can do in this situation. That is fear on like a true primal level.
The immortal jellyfish is a species of small, biologically immortal jellyfish found worldwide in tropical waters. Given the nickname immortal jellyfish for its ability to revert back to a polyp stage while it's starving or in danger and basically escaping death, researchers believe this jellyfish may hold the cure to cancer. Under normal conditions, its life cycle is divided into 4 parts. The union of the male and female gametes produces a larva or planula. It then attaches to the seabed as a polyp, similar to an anemone. The polyps then release a phura or a young jellyfish into the phase prior to sexual maturity. They become jellyfish, reproduce sexually, and start over. But if they are stressed by an environmental threat, the jellyfish revert. After reproducing, they return to the previous phases, becoming polyps in the ocean floor again. As far as scientists know, jellyfish can repeat the process indefinitely. Thus, they are said to be biologically immortal. They can be eaten by a predator or fall into the hands of a swimmer, but they do not die of old age, which is pretty cool. Number 9. River at the bottom of the Black Sea. The Black Sea is one of the most isolated from the world's oceans, and there is a river flowing along the bottom of it. Now, it's just not a normal river. Oh no, it's complete with trees, leaves, and even waterfalls. One major difference is that the underwater river, when rounding a bend, moves in currents spinning the opposite direction from those on land. It has been an intriguing aspect of the ocean since it was found. According to scientists, if the river was on land, it would be the 6th largest river in the world in terms of the volume of water flowing through it. The discovery of the river, announced on August 1st, 2010, was made by scientists at the University of Leeds, and it is the first of its kind in the world. Number 8. The Mariana Trench. In the western Pacific Ocean, you will find the deepest part of the sea. The Mariana Trench is deeper than the height of Mount Everest, 43 miles wide, and a massive 1,580 miles long, which is 5 times longer than the Grand Canyon. A certified U.S. national monument, only small areas of the Mariana Trench have been explored. James Cameron reached the bottom in a submersible vessel Deep Sea Challenger in 2012, with the last successful attempt to search the ocean floor coming in 2020, when the Chinese submersible Fenduji made it all the way down. Several new species of underwater creatures have been discovered in the Mariana Trench, with most living on the surface of the ocean floor, including a type of sea cucumber. Explorers will find themselves in total darkness as they continue to understand what else lies in the deepest parts of the ocean and how marine life manages to survive. Number 7. Los Mahabalipuram Pagodas. The Los Pagodas was long considered a myth by many because of the lack of scientific evidence of its existence. But in 2004, when the infamous Indian Ocean tsunami hit, for a brief moment when the waters parted, large rock-like structures emerged from the water and were witnessed by many onlookers. The Los Mahabalipuram Pagodas in India, making it an incredible discovery. The remains of an ancient city were found in 2001 off the coast of India. Scientists retrieved many different items from the large city, including artwork, hand tools, fossilized bones, and pottery shards. What makes the discovery incredible is that the city is thought to be around 9,000 years old, which predates to the earliest Indian civilizations that sprung up 4,000 years ago. There is still not a lot known about this ancient city, as scientists and archaeologists continue to search the area for more clues and debate how old the city really is and who once inhabited it. But wow. Number 6. The 2,400-year-old boat in the Black Sea. Archaeologists working with engineers from the Black Sea Maritime Archaeology Project, aka MAP, have discovered a 23-meter shipwreck that has laid undisturbed for more than 2,400 years. The find is believed to be the oldest intact shipwreck ever discovered. Thanks to the lack of oxygen in the Black Sea and the fact it was discovered a mile below the surface means it is exceptionally well preserved. The 75-foot vessel is thought to be ancient Greek. It still has its mast, rudders, and rowing benches. Speaking to The Guardian, Professor John Adams, the principal investigator with MAP, explained, "A ship surviving intact from the classical world, lying in over 2 kilometers of water, is something I would have never believed possible, and that it will change our understanding of shipbuilding and seafaring in the ancient world." The ship is thought to be a trading vessel. However, up to now, the design has only been seen on the size of ancient Greek pottery. The find is an archaeological first. The team have left the vessel untouched, apart from a small sample that was used to carbon date it by the University of Southampton. Number 5. $150 million of lost silver. At the bottom of the Atlantic for more than a century, a 150-year-old steamship had been found in 2003. The ship is the Republic, which sailed from New York in 1865, just after the Civil War, carrying 59 passengers and crew and mixed cargo meant to help New Orleans recover from the war. About 100 miles off Georgia, battling a hurricane, it sank in waters a third of a mile deep. Its cargo of lost coins, experts say, may now be up to worth $150 million. That would make it one of history's richest treasure wrecks. "It's a dream come true," said Dr. Donald H. Kagan, an expert on 19th century coins who is advising the company that discovered the wreck. There are piles of coins. The company Odyssey Marine Exploration of Tampa, Florida, who announced the find, said it hoped to retrieve all the coins. The company has retrieved more than 1,600 gold and silver coins, and none are dated later than 1865, tending to confirm the wreck's identity, said George Stem, the company's director of operations. "For some reason, even the silver coins are in great condition. Part of it is surely the physical environment down there," he said. "The icy deep explorers are still finding can can often preserve objects, even precious metals like silver, that normally corrode easily. It's like finding a real treasure, and I would definitely like to receive some of those special coins. Number 4. Giant squid. The Kraken is a legendary sea monster of enormous size that is said to appear off the coast of Norway. Now, this is a mythical creature, but there is some truth to it. A giant squid was found on shore in Denmark in 1853. The giant squid is as elusive as the legend it inspired. It lives so deep underwater that we have limited information about it. However, we know it has the largest eyes of all living creatures, grows up to 18 meters, and is frequently hunted by sperm whales for food. The weaker giant squid generally flees when confronted by a whale, however, it sometimes fights back when cornered, and it's not unusual to find sperm whales with scars left from their battles with giant squids. It wasn't until the turn of the century in 2001 that humans saw the giant squid for the first time, and only a few years after that when it was finally photographed, making it one of the most elusive on the planet. The giant squid has long been known to exist, but capturing it on film has taken scientists extensive time and voyages to the deepest parts of the ocean where life is difficult to sustain. Number 3. Elongated skulls. Saquayum is a cenote located in Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. It is a place that locals feared, and in 2012 a team of divers discovered the reason behind its fearsome reputation. An underwater survey discovered 2 chambers of the cenote littered with human bones, including deformed skulls. Archaeologists spent 2 weeks exploring the 2 chambers. The skulls belong to different sexes and ages, so they aren't thought to be sacrifices, which begs the question, why are they buried deep underwater? Archaeologist Bradley Russell, who made the discovery, believes the dead may have been buried as some form of ritual, or that they could be the victims of a plague that swept through the area. You wouldn't want them near the rest of the population, and you wouldn't want to drink the water either, Russell explained. Regardless, that's creepy. And why are the skulls elongated? Are they another species of human? I have so many questions. Number 2. Baltic Sea Anomaly. In 2011, a sonar image was taken by Peter Lindberg, Dennis Erberg, and their Swedish Ocean X diving team while searching for treasures on the ocean floor in the Baltic Sea. What the picture showed was a seemingly non-natural 200-foot circular object with passageways and stairs. The discovery looked like something out of a Star Wars film, and many people believed it was a spaceship that sank to the bottom of the ocean. Samples taken from the area in 2012 were given to Swedish scientists who said that there was nothing extraterrestrial about the area, but I'm not too sure about that. What Ocean X and the crew had found was weird, and many still think there is a UFO lying at the bottom of the Baltic Sea, and there's another expedition to the area planned soon. And coming in at number 1 is giant underwater pyramids. Off the coast of Portugal in the Atlantic Ocean is an anomaly that experts have been unable to fully understand or explain. Picked up by oceanic GPS technology, measurements of a structure were found, leading researchers to believe that 2 giant pyramids of ancient times sit underwater thousands of feet below the surface. The GPS data received back has the structures with a base of 8,000 square feet and about 150 feet tall, making these pyramids pretty giant in size. But there's very little explanation into their existence, leaving it entirely up to speculation. Why would they be there? Is it another hidden city? Who knows? The pyramid has been underwater for about 20,000 years. Considering this is around the time of the last ice age where glaciation was melting from its peak 2,000 years prior, whatever civilization, human or not, that was around before the ice age could be responsible for building the pyramid. While the Portuguese Navy still hasn't determined the origins, many might question why this hasn't been first reported sooner than late 2012. To further support the idea that this pyramid could have been built by different civilizations, archaeologists from the Portuguese Association of Archaeological Research have recently discovered evidence on Pico Island that suggests their belief that humans existed in the Azores region before the arrival of the Portuguese thousands of years ago. Spooky.
The ghost shark lives in the deep ocean and lives for about 30 years. It looks like a ghost, but arguably even scarier than one. It eats primarily crabs, shellfish, sea urchins, and octopus. Apparently these fish have been around even longer than dinosaurs. Their big eyes can appear dead in the water, but glow when they are exposed to light, giving them that ghostly look. In our number 9 spot, we have the Atlantic wolffish. The Atlantic wolffish kind of looks a bit like a blob with very sharp canine-like teeth. So sharp that it can crush the shells of sea urchins and crabs very easily, and that is what they eat. They can live at depths of 2,000 feet, and apparently they can produce an antifreeze that keeps their blood pumping in freezing water. This fish's overbite and general scary look definitely terrified us humans when we discovered it. In our number 8 spot, we have the red-lipped batfish. This fish is found near Peru at the depths of 10 to 249 feet. They eat small fish and small invertebrates including shrimp, crabs, worms, and mullets. They aren't good swimmers, but they use their pectoral, pelvic, and anal fins to walk on the ocean floor. Like this. Anal fins. What? I'm 5. I wonder if whoever discovered this fish was more confused than scared to have found a fish that literally looks like it's wearing red lipstick. In our number 7 spot, we have the dragonfish. The deep sea dragonfish lives about 2,000 feet below the surface and is most certainly a ferocious predator. I mean, look at their teeth. They are clearly born to be fierce. They are quite long, coming up on 6.5 inches, and yes, they do have wing-like fins, which is definitely why they were called dragonfish. They are also called the sea moth, which, yeah, no, that makes them seem less cool because, you know, moths are a pain. So we're gonna stick with the dragonfish. Little is known about their history thus far, which is just another reminder that the ocean is huge and we have so much more to learn. In our number 6 spot, we have the Dumbo octopus. I can't think of the Dumbo octopus without thinking, aw, so cute, it's like Dumbo. It has protruding ears that are like fins, and that is why it was given the name. Its fins act like propellers and propel them upwards, like so. Personally, I don't think this creature is very scary, maybe because the cute name put it in a positive light, but if you are someone that feels uncomfortable looking at a cluster of dots, don't look at its legs. I am that person, and just looking at its suction cup identical legs made me a tiny bit queasy. Apparently there are about 15 different Dumbo octopus species, which is pretty cool, and also they live in the depths of at least 13,000 feet. They are the deepest living octopus known to man as of yet. They measure to about 8 to 12 inches and they can measure to about 6 feet high. They are quite hard to spot as they are known for their ability to camouflage. Pretty cool. In our number 5 spot, we have the frilled shark. The frilled shark can live to depths of up to 5,000 feet, which means they were most likely not spotted by a casual diver. This eel-like shark has 6 pairs of gills that are across its throat. It usually swallows its prey whole, but its 300 teeth would also guarantee that its prey would most likely not escape anyway. This fish is referred to as a living fossil as it looks so similar to its ancient ancestors. Honestly, this fish looks old and worn, and a little bit like a snake. Honestly, it looks like it could be the demon of the sea. In some pics of this shark, it looks truly terrifying, and everyone, including divers, would be scared if they were ever to stumble across this fish. In our number 4 spot, we have the giant squid. The giant squid is indeed giant. It is 40 feet long, that's about 12 meters. Yeah, this definitely scared the breath out of some divers somewhere upon its discovery. It is one of the largest animals without backbones in the world. They live at depths of 1,000 to 2,000 feet, which definitely has made them hard to study. Apparently, they also have the largest eye in the animal kingdom, as their eyes are about 10 inches in diameter. They are carnivores, so they usually eat deep sea fish, young sharks, smaller squids, and humans. Just joking, but honestly, I'm sure if they had the opportunity to eat you, I bet you they would. In our number 3 spot, we have the gulper eel. Okay guys, let's be real, a diver wouldn't be able to see most deep sea fish because, well, we can't necessarily dive into the deep sea yet, lol. However, I'm sure divers have seen them via pictures and after being captured in deep sea fishing nets, so there's that. The gulper eel is one of them that was most likely seen because of a deep sea fishing net. This fish has one large mouth, and its mouth is bigger than its whole body, which makes it a tad scary to look at. It usually feeds on small crustaceans, so there's really nothing to fear. It wouldn't eat you. It has a long pink fluorescent tail that helps attract prey with its light. I personally think it is quite chilling to look at and would love to know if you agree in the comment section below. In our number 2 spot, we have the hatchetfish. So many scary fish. I'm gonna have to put on something funny after this, like The Big Bang Theory. My newest obsession. I know I'm late to the game, whatever, your girl is a late bloomer. The deep sea hatchet fish basically looks like an alien with its big bulging eye. Oh, and it glows in the dark. Yeah, glows. Pretty cool. Which honestly makes it maybe one of the coolest fish. Cool, but terrifying. It has a row of luminescent organs lining its belly. It apparently mimics daylight above, which throws off predators below it. They live at depths up to 3,200 feet. They have a pretty large mouth that is tilted upward and opens wide to scoop up meals. In our number 1 spot, we have the goblin shark. When this shark was discovered, surely everyone was terrified. It literally looks like a goblin trapped in a shark body. This creature is one of the most scary looking deep sea creatures that I have ever seen. Apparently they can be as long as 4 meters, but some hypothesize that they can be longer. They have very long snouts and protruding mouths that hold many teeth that contribute to their scariness. They can crush their prey, such as shellfish, easily with their teeth. They can eat a fish whole, and that is usually what their diet consists of: rat tails and dragon fishes. They can weigh up to 460 pounds. Their lifespan is quite long at 30 to 35 years. Even though it looks quite terrifying, it does have a flabby body with small fins, so it can have quite sluggish movement.
Deep sea divers may have found the road to Atlantis this year. Yeah, this is a good one. May 2022, this bizarre path was spotted in the Pacific Ocean after an exploration vessel, Nautilus, caught the rocky formation next to Hawaii. The exploration team said in a recent interview with WION News that our corps of exploration have witnessed incredible and unique, fascinating geological formations while diving on the Liliuokalani Ridge. The 90-degree fractures are most likely the result of eruptions from long ago. But volcanic activity, it's not a yellow brick road after all, but it is cool to look at. This area of the ocean is the largest fully protected conservation area in the world, and this explains why. Literally, there's Wizard of Oz stuff happening below. No one wants to tell us anything. Covering more than 580,000 square miles. So far, we've only discovered 3% of the seafloor, so I'm sure there's many more discoveries coming our way. Number 9. Norfolk's Royal Shipwreck. Okay, so this initial discovery happened way back in 2007, believe it or not, but it was a secret until recently. Now I'm here to tell you all the tea. On May 6th in 1682, a ship called the Gloucester got stuck in a sandbank off the coast of Norfolk, and then an hour later she sank. Now one of these passengers was the future King James II of England. He escaped in a small boat, thankfully. Quick decision that literally changed the course of history. These two diving brothers found the ship back in 2007, but now it's official, now it's confirmed, so now we can talk about it. Just last month it was officially announced. This was the lost ship indeed. Maritime expert Claire Jowett calls this recent discovery the single most significant historic maritime discovery since the raising of the Mary Rose. Number 8. Crusader Sword. Me personally, I'm a shell guy. Love the shells, maybe rocks every now and then. I see a nice shell, I'm going for it, okay? I don't care who's living in there. I gotta listen. Sounds of the sea. But a sword that once belonged to a Crusader knight? I mean, sure, that's fun too. Shells, swords, they're both good. An Israeli scuba diver, not even that far experienced, ended up stumbling across one of the coolest discoveries back in 2021. Shlomi Katzin was diving off the Carmel coast in Israel, and as well as a badass sword, the diver also found anchors, ancient stones, pottery fragments, all from around 900 years ago. See, me myself, I wouldn't even notice this. It's covered in barnacles. It doesn't even look like a sword, other than the shape, maybe the odd shape of a sword, that's it. That's a great find. No submerged curses, no Mayan ruins, just a nice cool sword. We love that. Number 7. The Great Lakes Griffin. Back in 2018 in Lake Michigan, diver Steve Libert found what he believed was the holy grail of Great Lakes shipwrecks. The Griffin sank back in 1679. Divers have been searching for this beauty for years and years. Now, as a kid, Steve Libert was talking about the shipwreck when his history teacher stopped and said, "Hey, who knows? Maybe one of you will find the Griffin." Imagine that. Your grade 8 teacher tells you that somebody might find a ship, and that somebody ended up being you. Fascinating. So at 67 years old, he discovered the wreck. It was 2018, but his research began 40 years prior. It's a long time coming. Libert began diving in 1981. Took a very long time to track this one down. So if you're in any Great Lakes, keep your eyes open for, 50-foot long ships from the late 1600s. Number 6. Magnificent Alien. Okay, tinfoil hats, put them on folks, now's the time. In a list of deep sea discoveries, how don't I talk about this little guy? While the rest of the world was in panic mode, a new sea sponge was discovered back in 2020. It was named Advena magnifica, which translates to magnificent innocent alien. Yeah, this sponge literally gets its name because it looks like E.T. And to be fair, it looks like an alien. It looks like a literal extraterrestrial. An ROV found this sample over 6,000 feet deep in the Pacific Ocean. They found it in what they called a forest of weird, which is a cool nickname, I guess. Cristiana Castello Branco, the researcher who found this deep sea squishy, explains the discovery in an NOAA interview, saying that all these organisms are intricately connected. By documenting and describing marine diversity, we are building a better understanding of life and the impact of humans on Earth. In this case, in the ocean. End quote. This little guy could be the key to humanity's survival. I feel it. He looks confident, doesn't he? He looks like he knows what's up. Number 5. Comb stars. Ocean life is by far the scariest thing out there. We have no idea what lies in our oceans, and that scares the shit out of me, honestly. We discover some crazy fish every single year. Deep sea fish with bioluminescence are for sure aliens, while others are just natural predators that we haven't seen yet. Like the comb star, for example, which is a starfish that contains tetrodotoxin. Tetrodotoxin is a deadly neurotoxin that can cause paralysis almost instantly. Per every gram of comb star flesh, there's enough toxins to take out 500 mice. And before you ask, no, we don't have an antidote yet. So avoid all the oceans, please. Number 4. Toxic waste. We mentioned in this list a 900-year-old Crusader sword. That was a good time, but not all discoveries are the most amazing, okay? Many deep sea ROV trips are not ideal. We don't want to discover what's going on down there. We don't want to know. We don't always find a mammoth tusk or a glow-in-the-dark shark. Sometimes we find this. Sometimes we find barrels of waste. This dump site here was discovered off the coast of LA, 3,000 feet deep. ROVs found around 27,000 barrels of toxic waste. Yeah, the 2021 discovery was deemed staggering. I'll definitely agree with that one. You can literally see this aura of toxic waste coming from all these spots. It's brutal. This is horrible. No fish in sight. Wonder why. Number 3. The deepest shipwreck. The USS Johnston was a US Navy destroyer which sank during the Battle of Samar in 1944. It sank after a battle with a large fleet of Japanese warships. Victor Vescovo, who is one of the few people who has made the dive into the Marianas Trench, was one of the people who first stumbled upon the remains of said sunken warship. The ship's remains were first found in 2019 and was known as the deepest known shipwreck as it was found 6,456 meters deep in the Philippine Sea in the Pacific Ocean. We now have a new record holder, believe it or not. The world's deepest shipwreck was discovered 4 miles underwater in the Philippines. The US destroyer sunk during World War II and it sits at the depth of 22,916 feet. The USS Samuel B. Roberts, or the Sammy B, probably won't be beat record-wise. This is extremely rare and so deep. I can't even fathom how deep this is. Number 2. Mayan caves. Back in 2018, a diver was exploring flooded caves in Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. They were diving around and saw this peculiar opening, so they just had to check it out, right? The divers accidentally discovered one of the largest underwater cave systems in the world. That ought to be fun. It's better than a sword, I guess. A team of divers then explored many kilometers of Mayan history. Bones everywhere, a lot of bones. National Geographic, of course, got involved and explains that these skulls, given the amount found, were more than likely involved in some sort of ancient sacrifice. Yeah, they found an ancient burial site underwater. See ya, I'd go right back up so fast. Many elongated skulls were found, suggesting that the ancient Mayans were up to something a little darker last time these caves were occupied. If curses are real, there's probably a few in here, so avoid them. And finally, number 1, a cursed tablet. We'll end this list off with a super recent discovery. It's small, but it is mighty. This tablet here was discovered and it comes in at just 2 centimeters by 2 centimeters. Very small. Discovered in 2022 in the West Bank, this artifact has historians scratching their heads because it's a couple hundred years older than any Hebrew text previously. It predates the Dead Sea Scrolls by 1,350 years. These ancient letters, once translated, mean to call on to anybody who breaks this curse. There's around 40 proto-alphabetic letters, early Hebrew writing, all folded onto this tiny little lead tablet. Also, the fact that this small tablet mentions the curse of Yahweh is pretty alarming. The sediment comes from excavations done in the 80s on Mount Ebal, so many believe that this is from the ancient stone structure Joshua's altar, which would make sense. The tablet was dated to around 1200 BC, and the chemical isotopes in the tablet suggest that it's from mountainous ranges in Greece, or possibly from the Mountain of Curse. Yeah, the Mountain of Curse, that's a hard pass for me. That's worse than Death Mountain in Zelda. I'm out.
We're taking it back to the Renaissance era. According to accounts from the time, there were discoveries of huge triangular fossilized teeth, but at the time these teeth were so big and they had no idea who or what they belonged to. Instead, people of the time thought that they were petrified tongues or shed teeth that belonged to snakes and dragons.
I mean, with the size of these teeth, I truly do not blame people for thinking that they were proof of the existence of dragons. It wasn't until 1667 when the Danish naturalist Nicolaus Steno recognized them as the teeth of sharks, and it was then that he described his finding in the book The Head of a Shark Dissected, which also contained an illustration of the tooth. In our number 9 spot today we have the feeding habits. While it's hard to learn much about the habits of a creature that has been extinct for as long as the Megalodon has, there are different and really interesting clues we can use to determine some of the things that were once a complete mystery to us, and one of those things has to do with their feeding habits. Of course, a creature that is slated to be as large as the Meg is going to need a lot of fuel. It's gonna need a big meal, and what better large meal lives in the ocean than a whale? That's right, one of our current largest creatures was a Megalodon delicacy. You may be wondering how we were able to figure this out, and that relates back to the finding of fossilized whale bones. These bones have been found with cut marks from Megalodon teeth etched into their surface. It is said that some of these bones even have nastier wounds with the shark teeth actually still stuck in them from millions of years ago. Talk about an apex predator. In our number 8 spot today we have the bite force. One thing scientists have been able to estimate about the Megalodon is what they think might have been the force that they could bite down with. So to set the stage, we of course need something to go on unless you're already an expert in bite forces. Humans, our bite force is measured to be around 1,317 newtons. That doesn't seem too bad. Next, a great white shark, which seems to be quite the predator here currently on Earth, their bite force is measured at about 18,216 newtons. That's definitely quite a jump from us as humans, but it makes sense. I mean, a great white can definitely do a lot of damage should it choose to. So now we have the Megalodon, one of the most powerful predators to have ever existed, the apex predator. Scientists estimate their bite force was between 108,514 to 182,201 newtons. A reminder that ours isn't even 1,500. It's discoveries like these that really put into perspective just how large and powerful this prehistoric creature really was. In our number 7 spot today we have so many teeth. So most of the discoveries relating to fossils of megalodons that have been found are just teeth. There's so many teeth, and so little of really anything else that has been found. And that of course begs the question as to why? Well, apparently part of this is because sharks continuously produce teeth throughout their entire lives, and depending on what they eat, they often lose their teeth. Like, apparently it's so common that they go through thousands of teeth in their lifetime. Maybe I'm new to the shark game, but I had no idea. But of course, this means that shark teeth are constantly raining down to the sea floor, only to later be discovered, and in the case of megalodons, only to become a fossil first. The other half of why the teeth are so common is because teeth are the hardest part of a shark's skeleton. Sharks' bodies are made from a softer cartilage rather than bone, sort of like the stuff that our nose and ears are made of. This means that the chances of these things surviving all of these millions of years are slim to none. In our number 6 spot today we have a fossil. Like I mentioned previously, it's hard to find any remains or fossils of megalodons other than teeth. Most of these remains have been lost to time, but that is exactly what makes this discovery so fascinating. A fossil found in Peru a few years ago is said to not only have been the discovery of a full set of teeth, but also a brain case and a small string of vertebrae, which is a very rare find. Aside from just being a relic from a time long past, this fossil could give us immeasurable insights into what these creatures looked like, more so than we know now, and it may even be able to uncover some of the secrets that remain hidden in the past. In our number 5 spot today we have their appearance. From when the existence of megalodons was first discovered up until quite recently, people believed that these sharks looked basically like a ginormous great white shark. Like most of us have seen Jaws, think of that shark, or the 2018 classic The Meg. That's what people assumed they looked like. Turns out, based on what we now know, that's really not the case. These sharks would have had a much shorter nose than a great white, like a sort of flattened and squished one. It also would have had longer, like extra long pectoral fins, because when you're that big, you need all of the support you can get to navigate through the water. We thought that megalodons would look like great whites because we thought that they were related, but as it turns out, that isn't true. Megalodons actually come from a different lineage of sharks, and sadly, they were the last member of the lineage. In our number 4 spot today, we have ancestors. Speaking of the life and lineage of megalodons, let's take a look back at what we know about their ancestors. The oldest definitive ancestor of the Meg is a 55 million year old shark called Otodus obliquus. These sharks grew to be about 9 meters or 30 feet long. This of course isn't where things stop though. The evolutionary history of this shark goes back to another ancestor called Cretalamna, which lived about 105 million years ago. This means that the lineage of the megalodon spans over 100 million years. That's wild. This is part of how they found out that megs and great whites weren't actually as closely related as once thought. Through more fossils that have been found, they've been able to trace this lineage, and in fact it is now believed that ancestors of great white sharks and the megalodon probably lived at the same time, and they were likely in competition with each other. Safe to say it would have been a pretty terrifying time to live in the ocean. In our number 3 spot today, we have a cosmopolitan. One of the things that helps us to know that the megalodon existed relates back to how widespread they once were on Earth. It is said that this species was adapted to warm tropical and subtropical waters, but that means that they could be found basically on every continent except Antarctica, and we have found the teeth to prove it. Apparently the places where most have been found include the east coast of North America, and definitely in the bottom of saltwater creeks and rivers in places like North Carolina, South Carolina, and Florida. They are also said to be a common find for divers off of the coast of Morocco and in certain parts of Australia. They're even sometimes found in the UK, but this is definitely more of a rare sighting there. This is all to say that this proves to us that this was a species that was clearly thriving during their time here on Earth. It can be hard to imagine these prehistoric creatures, but in the history of our planet, they really aren't that long gone. In our number 2 spot today, we have rings. One of the best preserved and most complete megalodon fossils or specimens finds its home in the Royal Belgian Institute of Natural Sciences Conservatories in Brussels. This includes a collection of 150 vertebrae that were found in the 19th century Antwerp, Belgium. When they were discovered, they weren't completely strung together, but they were found in the same layer of rock in the same location, which would make it fair to deduce that they likely came from the same animal. Using 3 of these vertebrae, researchers were able to find out the age and roughly the size of the shark when it passed away millions of years ago. They were able to do this because apparently on shark vertebrae they have sort of rings, like trees do. Like you can count the rings of a tree, and you can apparently do that for a shark as well, which will give you an estimate on their age. On this specific specimen they counted 46 circles in the vertebrae, which put the shark at roughly 46 years of age. This would have been quite young for a megalodon since they are said to have lived to be about 88 to 100 years old. Having this age estimate allowed them to also estimate the potential size of this megalodon, which they said was around 9.2 meters or roughly 30 feet. In our number 1 spot today, we have Bye Bye Megalodon. To cap off this list today, it only seems fair that we talk about what happened to the megalodon. If they were these huge, powerful apex predators, how did they die off, especially when other shark species have seemed to survive? We know that the megalodon was extinct by the Pliocene, which was 2.6 million years ago, and was when the Earth entered a phase of cooling. We of course can't know exactly the moment the last megalodon died, but right now it is believed that it may have been about 3.6 million years ago. The cooling of the planet is likely the biggest contributor to the demise of the Meg. I mentioned before that they preferred warm tropical waters, and a drop in those temperatures would totally throw off the habitat that they once called home. This significant habitat loss, coupled with the likelihood of their favorite prey either also going extinct or adapting to cooler waters and moving where the sharks couldn't go, truly is a recipe for disaster for the good old megalodon. Another big contributing factor relates to when they gave birth, which is thought to have happened close to the shore, which would provide a cozy, shallow nursery for their young that was free from predators like large whales. This is all fine and dandy until ice begins to form at the poles and the sea levels dropped, which means that the safe place where they once went to have their pups was now destroyed as well. Scientists believe that up to a third of large marine animals, which includes 43% of turtles and 35% of seabirds, became extinct as a result of the cooling temperatures seen millions of years ago. This affected and significantly dropped the number of organisms at at the bottom of the food chain, which ends up being a huge problem for our giant apex predators.
8-legged alien-looking things with suction cups all over their arms and beaks for mouths. Octopus are creepy-looking things, and to top it all off, they can camouflage like a Navy SEAL, and they are super smart. If these are the kind of things that make your skin crawl, then just running into one of these guys would probably freak you out. Well, on the underwater expedition at the Davidson Seamount, there was a rather shocking discovery. They had a remote probe that was on the ocean floor around 10,000 feet, and they came across which seemed to be an octopus that was next to not just one, not just two, but a group of 1,000 octopuses in a nursery. They were all there laying their eggs and using the heat from the volcanic vent to keep them warm. I would hate to be the guy who accidentally steps into that crack and then gets devoured by thousands of sticky arms. But if you're at 10,000 feet underwater, you probably are already screwed. At number 9, we have the Siberian lake monster. Of course, if we're doing a list of scary things that live underwater, we have to throw a giant mysterious sea monster on here. What separates the Siberian lake monster from other more popular guys that we have seen like Loch Ness and that kind of stuff is that underwater scans have actually picked this guy up. This thing is deep in Lake Labinkur, and some radar has shown that it looks like a 33-foot long creature is living there. Now this is probably just a skeleton, but if this thing is dead, it means that there was once a giant man-eating monster in this lake. I thought we were supposed to be safe in freshwater. They've nicknamed this thing the Devil, so you know he's a good time and loves company. So next time you go up to the cottage and you're swimming in the water and you feel safe, remember there might be a giant monster lurking underneath the water ready to turn you into a side dish. At number 8, we have the Blue Hole. Now there are several blue holes in the world. There's one in Belize, there's one in the Red Sea, there's a giant one in my heart that was left there from when Reboot ended on a cliffhanger. How are you going to end a show that so many people fell in love with on a cliffhanger? I will never trust again. Well, this one is between Cape Verde and the Caribbean islands. Scientists are really confused about this thing. It's a crack in the bottom of the ocean floor and it's several thousand miles long. What's strange about this is there's no explanation of how this happened. It might have been tectonic plates moving around, but when this happened, the Earth will probably start to repair itself and there's been no sign of this. My theory is this is where Godzilla goes to sleep at night. I mean, it seems like the most logical answer. It's either that or the gateway to hell. Like, come on guys, I'm doing real science work here. At number 7, we have the Yonaguni Complex. This was discovered by scuba divers in the 1980s. I think that's the scariest part about this one. Could you imagine going scuba diving back in the 80s? The technology back then must have been a tube going up to some guy who would blast fresh air down to you using a bicycle pump. I don't even think they had decompression sickness figured out back then. The chances of you coming up the bends was probably super high. Well, if it wasn't for a few divers in Japan who were willing to sacrifice it all to look at some cool stuff, we wouldn't know anything about the Yonaguni Complex. It's still a mystery as to what this thing is. It looks like some temples that might have existed thousands of years ago, but when the ice age decided to melt, it would have covered this entire area. This could be why an entire civilization got plunged underwater. Or the temple could have been on a cliff, and then when a massive earthquake hit, it knocked the temple into the water. But like everything in life, there are some haters who say this whole thing is just a natural rock formation. Some people just want to ruin everything. At number 6, we have Anacorra Cista Twista. One of the reasons why the underwater world is such a mystery is because we find things like this in there. Sure, there are beautiful things down there like bright fish and chubby marine mammals, but there's also the unknown, unidentified organisms like Anacorra Cista Twista, which should be the name of an 80s hair metal band. But what is this thing? Well, it's a protist. And what is a protist, you may ask? Well, it's an organism that doesn't belong to any animal group, fungus, or plant group. What does that mean? I really have no idea, you guys. I think it means it could be an alien. Some alien came down to Earth for a swim and then scraped its knee on some coral, and now we have alien creatures running around the ocean, probably waiting for you to pee so it can swim up your pee hole and then work its way into your brain. It's really the only logical answer. At number 5, we have the Bimini Road. How were the pyramids made? Was it aliens coming down to share their technology and secrets with us, or was it just thousands upon thousands of slaves who sacrificed their lives and their spines to build them? them? Well, we don't know and we may never know, but the Bimini Road is another one of these mysteries. It's off the coast of the Bahamas, and it looks like it could have been a pathway that was placed perfectly with giant slabs of rock. Similar to the way the pyramids were made, it seems that these large slabs of rock were too large to be moved by man, and also like the pyramids, these giant slabs were also perfectly placed so well. So where does everyone's mind go when something like this happens? Well, magic or aliens. The logical answer is that this is a natural phenomenon of the water moving and hitting the rocks to make these formations, but people think that this was made using advanced technology from aliens and could have been the road to Atlantis. Honestly, I like the Atlantis theory much better. It's more fun. At number 4, we have colossal squid. Yeah, this thing is a big no thanks for me. So everyone always talks about how there might be sea monsters out there, but this thing actually exists. There's never been one caught alive, but several have washed onto shores dead, and they are massive. The largest one ever discovered was 45 feet long, and it was dead. So you know there was an even bigger one out there that killed this guy. They don't even have suckers on their tentacles, they have hooks. Let me say that again. This squid has 10 giant arms covered in hooks. This thing is straight out of a horror movie. Scientists aren't even sure what something this big eats. They think it probably feeds on whales or your deepest darkest fears. I wouldn't be surprised if the colossal squid works part-time as a gatekeeper for hell. It makes me think that the old Greek stories about the Kraken might have been real. At number 3, we have underwater circles. Giant formations of circles that are formed underwater and nobody knows how they got there. These mysteries were discovered off the coast of North Carolina, Florida, and Belize. Now what are they? Like many things on this list, myself and the entire scientific community have no idea. But here are some theories. Maybe they were formed naturally by either two things, water currents or some sort of animal mating ritual. Another idea is that these things were made by ancient civilizations before the Ice Age. All these things would have been above ground and might have been art left over by some old-timey tribes. And the third theory is that they look kind of like a bullseye, so it might be some sort of nuclear missile target, and if you hit it hard enough, the explosion will cause some sort of major natural disaster like an earthquake or tsunami, or if we're lucky, both. At number 2, we have Megalodon. If you have a fear of sharks, you're gonna love this one. Megalodon was a prehistoric shark that was even bigger than the giant hooked tentacle beast that was earlier on this list. If you've already forgotten about the colossal squid, it clocked in at around 45 feet long, where Megalodon was closer to 60 feet long. It was a 60-foot shark that could probably rip a blue whale in half in one bite. Well, maybe not that, but it was still a gargantuan creature with teeth the size of Brock Lesnar's fists. This thing wouldn't even chew you, it would just swallow you whole and then fart your skeleton out into the dark cold ocean. At number 1 on our list, we have Giant Eyeball. A mysterious giant eyeball washed onto the shore of a Florida beach back in October of 2012. I don't know any other kind of giant eyeball other than a mysterious one. There's no super common regular giant eyeball just lying around. But this is also Florida. This is the state where people smoke crack at weddings and kiss alligators on the lips, so maybe it's a little more common over there. Well, this giant eyeball was found by Gino Cavacci, and he didn't know what the hell to make of it, so he took it home and then stuck it in his freezer. Then he called the cops, and the cops came in and told him, "We don't do giant eyeballs on the beach. You have to call the wildlife people." And then he called the wildlife people, and they were like, "What the hell is that?" And he was like, "I don't know. I brought it to you guys to try and figure out what it is." And then some people were like, "Maybe it's a sea monster." And other people were like, "No, it's probably from a marlin." And I think in the end, no one really knew what the hell it was. But just so you know, there's giant eyeballs out there just laying around the beach sometimes.